There's a Y in every family, a production of the Waynesboro Family YMCA. This week in the podcast studio, welcome to new addition to the YMCA family, Tracy Henke. Tracy, how are you?
I am doing just fine, Jeff. Thanks.
Tracy comes to us as our new Director of Advancement, and every time I introduce you, somebody goes, what does that mean? What is she advancing? And we'll get into that a little bit at the tail end of the podcast. From the beginning, just kind of want to get to know Tracy a little bit and introduce her to the folks here at the YMCA. So Tracy, talk to us about your humble beginnings. From whence do you come?
Well, let's see. I was in high school in this area. I went to Western Albemarle High School in Crozet. One of our board members, actually, Eliza Scallett, was my English teacher. And so I'm familiar with the area. I went to Virginia Tech on graduating and lived in the Washington, D.C. area for about 15 years, where I worked in the nonprofit sector, had some experience doing PACs, fundraising, communications, publications, education, you name it, I've done it in nonprofit. And got tired of the city, so me and my husband packed up and decided to come back here. And we started coming around Waynesboro and just absolutely fell in love with it. So I joined the Y here and started working with our aquatics department right about the time the advancement director job opened up. So I thought that fit my background and I really wanted to get involved, and here we are.
So that's it. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. No. So what is it like working in D.C. with PACs? And were you in it in the Trump era? Or is there a difference? Doesn't matter what era you're in, because politics has changed slightly over the past 3 or 4 years.
Just a little bit. Let's say there's always going to be, no matter who's in the White House, there's always going to be some gnashing of teeth and rending of garments, often mine. And, it doesn't really seem to matter too much who it is that occupies the White House. It seems like there's just kind of shifting of faces. It's the same faces on either side that kind of come into more focus depending on which side's got more power at the time. Right now, it's kind of a little dark. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of people feeling kind of, frustrated with the way things are, but wanting to make some changes. And, that's on both sides. But I'm glad to be done with it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine staying on the Beltway much with just politics. I mean, you got politics everywhere you go, but when you're in politics in D.C., it's a real politics.
Never escape it.
How did you get into that world?
Well, I started out right out of college. I started as the executive assistant to a CEO in the health insurance industry for a nonprofit association who was very, very, very politically minded. And she sort of took me under her wing, and after a pretty quick period of time, she adjusted some of my responsibilities to start taking care of our PAC board and managing the PAC that we had, and she started ushering me into a lot of meetings with our government relations or GR department and going with them to some of their meetings with folks on Capitol Hill. And I started getting a pretty good idea how it really operates behind closed doors when I went to a concert at a private vendor's booth, for a concert where I think we talked business for all of about 7 minutes during the conference. And it cost us, I think, about $5,000. So, I got to know it pretty intimately from there on, and danced around that for several years.
So you go from the joy of PACs, where you have extravagant dinners to do 7 months worth of business, to coming to a Y board of directors meeting where we're giving away Subway and Liza cookies. Tell us about the nonprofit. Have you always been in nonprofit, or did you have the business? Well, actually, interestingly enough, you had your own business that you ran yourself.
I did. I was with nonprofit for several years, and then I got a random but wonderful opportunity to own my own pet sitting business, believe it or not. I am a huge diehard animal lover ever since I was a kid. And so I had the opportunity, and I jumped into it with both feet. It was a phenomenal experience. I did everything from helping people train unruly puppies to, having dogs board at my house. It was always a fun thing to come over to my house and see there was probably about 7 dogs there at any given time, none of which were mine. And, I did a lot of dog walking during the days and things like that. And it was a great experience. I'm really glad that I did it. But it gave me much more respect for starting something from the ground up and really, just having your heart be in what you do.
Did you have any employees? Was an employee of one?
No, actually I did. I had several independent contractors that worked for me by the end of it. It started out being just me, and that is a labor of love. Your best day is, doing that is an extraordinary thing, but sometimes when it's just you, I mean, if you got the flu, you're walking dogs and puking in bushes. It's just the nature of the beast, but it was a great thing. It really was.
One of our members was also a dog walker, and she's getting personal training now because she said her shoulder is out of whack.
That does not surprise me a bit.
Yeah, 'cause it never occurred to me. Big dog's bigger than you, and you're trying to manage multiple, and one just sees a squirrel.
Oh, yeah. My husband, one of his favorite memories is I was sitting down in a chair and holding the leash of about 135-pound cane Corso dog. And the dog got spooked by something, and the next thing you know, Tracy is literally flying through the air. And I am, for those of you who haven't met me, I am not a small woman. And I was flying through the air for a good couple of feet on that one. So no, if you're doing a lot of dogs and the dogs aren't well trained, you can absolutely injure yourself. So my sympathies to her.
So from dogs to back to the pack for a bit.
Yeah, I went back into nonprofit. That actually was my transition into being deputy director for a sort of an environmental think tank for several years. We did a lot of educational work with the public on some environmental issues, and what I really got a lot of dose of in that experience was a lot of PR work and a lot of work with the public on controversy, because some of the issues we touched on were, really highly debated issues in American culture. And so I got a lot of experience doing live interaction with the public, networking with other organizations, and trying to kind of expand people's viewpoint on things that maybe they had strong opinions one way, and hopefully by the end of it they had a little bit more information, or we're a little more open-minded. Live radio interviews is always fun when people can call in from across the country and ask questions.
Anonymously.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Share their emotional fervor with you.
Indeed. So tap dancing on your feet became a pretty good skill set to have with that. I did a lot of writing and communications, and that was really when I really got a lot of experience in fundraising, because that organization relied entirely on the fundraising efforts that we had. So it was all individuals and foundations, so there was no government grants behind it.
Climate change, was that a big push when you were in that industry? It's obviously top of the forefront now, and immigration. It sounds like you dealt with both.
I dealt with climate change. I dealt with immigration. I dealt with even some reproductive health issues. And so there was a lot of, if it was a polarizing issue, it kind of came under our wheelhouse. And so there was a lot of very, let's just say, passionate conversations. But, dealing with that issue was very, very interesting, because I went from there in an environmental position and talking about climate change very openly as it related to those issues. Then the next place I was at after that was actually within the transportation industry. And let's just say they had a very different corporate opinion on climate change, and a very different mentality about how to go about discussing that issue in the public. And so that was I got a good dose of playing devil's advocate on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's fascinating to me. Are you, for lack of better terms, like a chameleon? Then you have to change your colors based on what environment that you're in?
What I would say is that I have become very good at being open-minded to hearing other people's perspectives that may not necessarily agree with my current viewpoint. But what I'd also say is that it's really opened my eyes into it's very little in the world that I've had experience that is all black or all white, that there are actually some valid points that may not necessarily get some attention on both sides of the argument. But it has given me an ability to really sometimes put my personal politics aside in order to make things happen for a common goal and not get caught up on the minutia. I mean, sometimes I think we got to focus on the steak and not the peas. And so I think it's taught me a good amount of discipline of not letting those personalities or specific opinions get in the way of something that might be a greater good.
Which is what's going to help prepare you for working with DuBose Eggleston here at the Waynesboro Family YMCA.
I'll say it's very nice to be in an organization right now where, for, employment purposes, I don't necessarily have to be quite so private about my opinion.
Yeah, here it's just wide open. And we have a diversity of people on our staff of backgrounds and experiences, and religious affiliations, politics,
Absolutely.
and everyone gets along.
Indeed.
So you come into the Y and you hit the pool. And you get involved with the water aerobics ladies. And when you applied for the job, I had no idea who you were. All I know is a whole bunch of ladies from the pool were like, you should hire her.
God
Talk to me
bless
about
them.
your infusion into the Y through the water aerobics program.
Well, so I saw the Y when I was going by. I was on Wayne Avenue each day taking my son to daycare, and I saw the Y, and so I decided to come by and kind of see what was going on. And I got back into going to the gym regularly, but I had unfortunately had some injuries. I've got a herniated disc, I've got some arthritis in some places, and I've got a torn cartilage in my hip. And so my physician here was like, you need to get in the water. I don't want to see you out on the gym floor anymore. You need to be in the water. And so I hemmed and hawed about it a little bit, but finally I got in enough pain that I decided to go. And boy, am I grateful. You have got some phenomenally talented folks in that aquatics department. Really and truly, on a personal level, I have made such improvements and had such an amazing reduction of pain based on them really knowing what they're doing and being able to guide me. So I just kind of got started doing the water aerobics. I started getting in there, and I found it was a great group of ladies. It was a great, well, there's also some gentlemen. I don't want to discount them. There's a great group of people down there. Yeah, there's a great group of people down there, and they're very, very active, and they just embraced me with open arms. I laughed every morning. We had a great time. Denise and the other instructors, Karen down there, they have just been phenomenal. And I wanted to be more of a part of it. I watched the staff every morning that I came in be friendly, and that is a big change from staff anywhere, anything in DC. Very few people smile at 7 o'clock in the morning in DC. So, it's just something I wanted to be a part of, and there was an opportunity to get trained to be an instructor, and so I jumped right in.
So you went from a water aerobics instructor to director of advancement.
It's quite
It's a nice leap.
That's Indeed.
Well, I find it interesting. Like one of our members, Petra, came up to me. She'd only been here a week, and she started just waxing poetic about how much more pain-free she was from when she started. And the same message you were delivering about Denise and the other staff down there and how good they are. I'm in pain as we're talking. My right knee, my back, I just finished playing basketball. It's probably not the smartest. If I was smart, probably should be in the pool.
Get us in the pool, yep.
And do the water aerobics and the lap swimming and reduce some of my pain. So it's
Thursday morning, I'd be happy to have you. I promise I won't be too hard on you, boss.
Oh, you're teaching.
That's
All right.
right.
So if you guys want to get to know Tracy, what time is your class?
Thursday mornings at 8 a.m.
So there's a men's yoga class Thursday at 8 and Tracy's water aerobic class at 8. So pick your poison and actually try to do both. What can we expect if we come down to your water aerobics class?
Well, you can expect a lot of variety because I get bored real easy with the same old. So I like to change things up. There's a lot of times there's, interval training that I do where, we do brief exercises for, a lot of different variety. I like to match it up. I like to give people partners. I like to make it where you can talk to folks, but also kind of do some work on your own. But I'm going to push you, that's for sure.
We had a class, 10, 15 years ago. Cindy Dillette was the instructor. And I would call her a non-traditional instructor. And she would put those ladies in the old 50s, the stroll.
Nice.
And have them stroll down she had two lines, and you'd walk in and they were strolling as partners going across, or do-si-do, and just
that is great.
Just different. It sounds like that's what your class is.
Absolutely.
Diversity and fun. And as you're getting to know the Y, one of our taglines is a fun place to be healthy.
Absolutely.
And if you can't smile while you're enjoying a workout or not enjoying a workout, because sometimes, it's the best thing about a workout is when it's over.
Absolutely.
But we like to have fun. So what does advancement mean? There's probably some people out here going, what does the director of advancement do? And you're still figuring out under this umbrella what advancement means.
Indeed. The question is not what does advancement mean. The question is what does advancement mean to your boss and the company you're at? Because it's a variety of things.
And all other duties as assigned.
Indeed. Basically, advancement, it's a buzzword that got popular 5-10 years ago when it started catching on. Most folks are a lot more familiar with the old school title of Director of Fundraising, marketing director of development, that kind of thing, which is a lot of what we do. But it's gotten kind of tied together with some marketing, some communications, some general overall looking at what your programs are to basically advance the mission and the vision of the organization. And that pretty much touches every area of the why. For me to be the director of advancement for why, that means that I'm going to be working on fundraising and development, but I'm also going to be, learning as much as I can and trying to, share as much as I can about our program base, what our impact is on the community, working to see how we can expand those areas. How can we help more people in this community? How can we offer programs that benefit more people in this community? Really working with the amazing staff that's already here to see how I can help further the great work that they've already been doing here.
So when you first got here, one of the first things we asked you to do is go on the listening tour.
Indeed.
And sit across from members, sit across from staff members, and just get a sense of this organization and our people. And our people ultimately that are the coal that goes in that train and moves it forward. What are some of your early observations? You're wearing a unique set of glasses. We've talked about this. I've been here over 30 years, 15 as exec. There's some things that I look at that just because I've been looking at it the same way for 15 years, I think you've got a valuable pair of lenses that you've got an opportunity to say, have you ever considered it this way? And you have. You've totally tweaked one of our mainstays in our special events, which I think is going to be really valuable. What were some of your observations and your lenses walking into this organization?
Well, one of the things that I saw in the listening tour with the staff, I have noticed it as a member, and I got even more familiar with it during the listening tour, was that you have such an amazing asset here in there is not a single member of your staff, there is not a single department director that is not absolutely 100% all in invested in the mission of this place and in the community they serve. And there's nobody that I've run across, not privately and not when we've done things, on the record, so to speak, that they are not completely invested in this place and this isn't just a job for them. And that's a huge asset because when you've got buy-in from the staff level all the way up, it makes it a lot easier for the community to see. They see the difference in the product that's established, that's out there. You see people really committed to serving the community for what's best for the community as opposed to just punching a clock. And that's been a really nice thing to see because, like I said, coming from DC, you don't see that a lot. And that's an asset that a lot of times is overlooked. But I've also seen a staff that, as dedicated as they are absolutely overwhelmed with the need that they have here to try to serve more folks because there's always a need here. There's definitely a need for more programs, different programs, expanding to who we can help, getting more of our stuff out there. There's a real need and there's a limit to the manpower and the amount of resources we have. And so it's really inspired me to try to, roll up my sleeves and dig in and take a look at, okay, why don't we put in some policies, some procedures, some strategic planning to how we approach some of these problems so that we can free up some of their time. Hey, you don't have to run and spend your energy chasing money. Let me take care of some of that. Let me put some of this into a framework that it works around the clock year round as opposed to you have heavy seasons and dead seasons. And I'm really hoping I can free up some of their workload on some of those items where they can really focus on the areas that they love and the areas that are the most important to the community.
I find it interesting that not only is the staff, and I appreciate that observation, really dedicated. You got a lot of long-termers here, or repeat offenders, people that were here before, went to different pastures, came back. But the education level and professional nature, I mean, we're a small YMCA. We're, 60 staff, probably $1.4 million operating budget. When you compare us against other Ys and other demographics, a small independent little Y, I would put our staff up against any big YMCA. I mean, I think of...
Absolutely.
We have 2 doctorates on our staff. We have the recent hire of a youth sports director who's master's degree. Mm-hmm. Our fitness director has a law degree. I mean, and I'm just, and you look at somebody like Denise that came from the healthcare profession and is a professional trainer that's walking in the door. You look at Rebecca, who someone that came in, our head of childcare, was an aide to a classroom, and then became a teacher in that classroom, then became a lead teacher, then assistant childcare director and childcare director. And I can tell you, there's nobody else in this region that knows regulations DSS any more than she does, but it's more about her knowledge of when to hug a kid and when to hold them accountable, and that very appropriate balanced blend of love and teaching, which I think I just look at the staff and just get overwhelmed. And just go, wow, look at what we've put together here. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud that you are a new addition onto the staff, because you bring some fascinating skill sets and energy. And I think you're right. You talked about fundraising being year round. With us, we have done it only seasonal, and it has been tasked to everybody on staff, and they're still going to be very involved. But now there's somebody championing it, just like somebody running a youth sports program year-round, an aquatics program year-round, development and fundraising year-round. So peeps out there listening, get ready to have Tracy introducing herself to you.
I promise I'll be much, much more of a fresh face and a friendly smile over Fife here. That's my goal, is to make people have to see Fife's face as little as possible. That is my promise to you as a community.
That's right. The more they see me, I still have people that don't always answer the phone when I call, but most people do, which I greatly appreciate. We're about to go, you've been tasked with two sort of primary roles, with a third piece in there. There's three types of gifts. There's an annual gift, there's a sort of a brick and mortar gift, a capital gift, and an endowment gift, a gift in folks' estates. And we're going to be, I don't know if people realize that the Y is now debt-free.
Which is huge. It's huge for an organization to make this big of a turnaround.
Yeah, when you're 2003 coming out of bankruptcy, and yet still carrying $500,000 in debt, to be able to turn the corner and have $2 to $3 million in the endowment. Really, it's $2 million, and there's a third $1 million tucked in there that's for capital campaign, but it's all housed by the foundation. You got a good, healthy starting place. However, our reality as a Y is we still have more expenditures than we have revenue coming in from traditional sources like membership.
Right.
We're a very program-heavy Y. What are some of your thoughts on developing and diversifying our fundraising here, so we can, lower the gap, and ultimately we want our fundraising to pay for those kids and families that can't afford programming, not the lights in the building.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's where, when most people think about fundraising, I think it's one of the most common things that we hear is, I want to know how much of this is going to be going to the programs versus, other things. And one of the things that I plan on doing, and that I'm getting ready to get started here on, is I want to do a listening tour basically with the community as a whole. Because one of the most important pieces in fundraising and in development, and really, my job title in advancing an organization like this, is you can never underestimate the sheer value of listening to your constituents. If you don't listen to what people are asking for, you're going to give them the wrong things. And if you're offering the wrong things on the plate, why would they contribute to continue something that they aren't interested in the first place? And we've got some great programs out here that people are very dedicated to supporting. But I think what we need to do is try to focus on some of that unmet need and some of those things that we have, heard a lot of interest in, but we haven't had the plate of resources to be able to offer it yet. And so I think that one of the things I'm going to try to do is really get out there, have an open door policy with the community as a whole, that if you've got things you want, things you're interested in, things that, hey, if you want to look at something like this, I'd be definitely, interested in supporting a program like XYZ. My door's open. Well, I should say my little window is open at the top of the stairs.
Is in.
Yeah, the doctor is in. My little window will be open. My door is open, and, I'm always around. But I want to really put the energy into trying to focus on some of the folks that necessarily haven't been reached out to, some of the folks that maybe they don't have $1 million of a campaign to contribute to, but they've got a monthly gift that they can give, and that money is important to them, but this mission is more important, and they're willing to contribute it because they want to be a part of the change we're going to have here. I want to really try to come with open arms to those folks to say, your gift matters. Your gift matters.
For history buffs of the YMCA, they'll get a kick out of the fact that Tracy's in Charles Dobson's old office. If you were in the podcast studio,
around it,
you would see the air quotes around. So, it's a space. We're working on it, and the success of this movement could also create some more appropriate spacing, not only for kids and families, but also for our staffing structure, because I don't think people realize when I say we're a small Y, we are in comparison to other Ys across the community, but we're also one of the biggest employees in Waynesboro. We have 58 employees. We put out 130 some W-2s last year. We contribute significantly to this community, not only in our mission and our better and serving it related to youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility, but we're also a pretty significant tax base.
Absolutely.
We're also training tomorrow's workforce because the majority of the staff here are under the age of 21. And so you've got this great balance of wily veteran staff that are highly professional and motivated, and the young people coming up the ranks. If I gave you a magic wand and said, you've got one swish, so to speak, to make something happen at this YMCA, what would that be?
The one thing I would love to see the most is a complete overhaul of the facility itself. I would really love to see, the facility upgraded and given the space and the room that it needs in order to really have a place and a space for the staff to do what we do, but also for the programs to have the room and the placement and the equipment that they need to really operate at full capacity. I'm talking about 2 swimming pools, one for the SMAC folks and a warm pool for our folks, things for the youth sports, an area for them, basketball area, all of those areas that we have, but they're kind of strained to their max. Really expand on that so that everybody has a place and everybody has a space.
It's interesting. We've got the 89 build that when we knocked down Buzz Dauburn's house, so that's almost 30 years old. We've got the original building that was built in 66, opened up in January 67, so you've got 50 years on that. It is an aging facility, and it was built by a totally different generation built this facility, and I would agree with you. I think it's time for this generation to build the next foundation of this organization facility-wise for future generations, and it's time. We've got a beautiful aging building. Maggie Van Huss will talk about that. She's an old gal, but you can still dress her up and put her on her Sunday best.
Absolutely, and I'd love to see it expand into what it really is, which is a hub for the community. I want to see space available for that, because we've got folks that want to be here, but let's find a place to put them.
Right, and we have, just as we're sitting here doing the podcast, I've got in my hands architectural drawings, which are very exciting, that we'll be releasing some more information on in the future. We're working on bid documents. We're working on doing just that. We're asking this community to reimagine its why. But I love your listening tour of the community, because we can't reimagine the why ourselves. It's got to be what the community needs are. And I know we can make Waynesboro a healthier community.
Absolutely.
I mean, you come from the one side of the mountain and now you're coming over on this one. I find it, the Augusta Health did a need survey, which we haven't gotten the results of here recently. They'll be coming out very soon. But the 2016 results had Waynesboro really more obese than our neighboring counties.
Right.
At a 30 BMI index, we were at 46% of our citizens, whereas Stanton was at 23%.
Right.
So we're higher than the statewide and national averages. We're doubling our next door neighbors. And we've got a real poverty problem here. You've got elementary school that's 90% free and reduced lunch. You've got multiple, we've lost a lot of industry here. We've replaced it with retail, which is beautiful in your tax base, but your average wage, it changes a lot the household income that you're dealing with. And to be blunt, those two statistics, Waynesboro is getting poorer and fatter. And
Indeed.
we're in the front line, and we need to better position ourselves to be able to help make Waynesboro a healthier community. And we've been doing it already, and people think of us as a swim and gym organization. And I don't think they realize already we got the best fitness equipment in the valley. Mm-hmm. We've got a fantastic pool here. The level and quality of our staff is unparalleled. We've just got a real aging building that needs to get a significant repair. And that's also one of the reasons why Tracy's here.
No pressure. So,
well, the good news is you walked in, there's already a plan, drawings, template, resources. There's the ball's rolling in a organization committed to change.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, that I really plan on taking out on my tour of the community is letting you know, when I got here, the treadmill was already moving. I've had to jump in at a full run to keep up. And there's been so much change in a great direction that's already happening. And, really letting the community know there are already so many programs and really getting it out there, how much stuff that's really involving this community that the Y is already doing. Don't you want to be a part of, the reimagining of this Y? What part of it is your part? What part of it are you going to own that you want to be how you make a contribution to this part of the community?
It's going to be a fun ride. And
indeed it will.
I'm thrilled to have you in the vehicle with us.
Glad to be here. It might feel like a clown car, but it's my home.
It's a little bit of everything, so it's a blast. We told Tracy when she came in, we're sort of the island of misfit toys here at the Y. We're all just unique people, and it all blends together quite well. Well, thank you for being here, Tracy. Thank you for coming to the Y and bringing your time, talents, and energy. If folks have any questions, they can reach out to Tracy at
It's T Henke. It's THENKEYMCA@lumos.net. And if you can't spell it, just come on by.
Or just check out. Eventually, we'll get you on the website and get your contact information.
Indeed.
She's still sparkling brand new. And if you want to come up to the upstairs gym and stick your head in
absolutely
the closet,
what used to be the trophy case, is now my window. So you'll see me. Just don't order fries.
That's right. Don't order. You could. You wouldn't get any. But we'll just have a good old time. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks to you guys for listening. If you have any topics that you want us to cover on There's a Y in Every Family here at the podcast, just email me at jefffife@intellos.net. And you guys have a fantastic day.